Greetings, listeners, and welcome to The Spiritual Experience, a show where we share stories of life, love, and redemption for all of humanity on Earth. So sit back and enjoy. Try to identify with the speakers and not compare. Don't forget to subscribe on all podcast platforms. I'm your host, Jay Lewis, and here we go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, people, welcome back to Earth. This is the only place that matters at the moment. We have a very special guest with us today, wherever you're listening to this. Welcome back to The Spiritual Experience, and this is my good brother, Noah. Say hello.
Hello.
All right, so Noah, I've known for some time. We know we kind of like barflies around the same home group, which is incredible, and I love the fact that you've stuck around. So, where I want to start is where did it start? Like, where are you from? Like, what's the story?
Yeah, so I'm from Iowa originally, a small town in Iowa. I grew up right next to Minnesota, so everyone had that funny accent, like Minnesota, you know. But I was the son of a teacher and a custodian. I feel like I detasseled was the thing I did when I was growing up. It was a lot of hard work. If you don't know what detasseling it is, literally pulling the tops off of corn, baling hay, doing stuff like that. And so I felt like I had a lot of that in me as a young man, but I also had a lot of alcoholic tendencies, I guess, you know what I mean? I was a secretive dude. I left no stone unturned, and then when I found something good, I hid it somewhere else so someone else couldn't find it.
Did you grow up with a lot of siblings or a big family, or what was that like?
So mostly just me for 10 years, and then my brother was born. It's just me and my brother, but that kind of put me in a weird place. I don't know how to explain it, except that I was an only child for 10 years, and that kind of set the stage for me to always feel like an only child, even though I did have a brother. I feel like I had 10 years on my own, and when he was born, my parents did not plan necessarily. Like, we didn't have 2 bedrooms. It was just my brother and me in one room, and I was getting older into my high school years, and he was 0 to 10 years old. Wow. Yeah. So like when I was 16, I got my keys and I left home, basically. I got a girlfriend and I would kind of like stay over at her house off and on. I'd find friends to hang out with late. I'd participate in anything school. And it was like interesting because I feel like that has been a part of my life, and kind of an MO of mine is to just run and like let it ride and just go as far as the journey can take me until it's like you have to leave. But I did that,
When did the alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, like when did all that come into the show?
Oh, all the good stuff. Well, that was kind of my family situation at home. But my father was an abusive alcoholic, verbal, physical, just kind of a nightmare of a dude to be around, especially when he was drinking.
Is he a big guy?
He's about as big as me, like 6'3", broad-shouldered, but doesn't have the gravitas or the weight that I do or did have.
What about that presence? Does he have like that alcoholic, I'm the mean guy, I'm the boss presence?
Yeah, so like the weird like eyes that just kind of like, engross you in this like, what are they pissed off about? What are they so angry about? My dad was the guy that walks into the room and you're like, is he going to laugh or is he going to yell at me? And that kind of always on your toes kind of feeling that I had at a young age was like something that I still have today to a certain degree, you know what I mean? Like I find myself in a position where it's like I need to, find the strength, or I need to make the humor the point of whatever is happening in my life. But yeah, so he'd walk into the room and it'd be immediately like, is he fucked up? Is he drunk? Is he, what's this situation going to be? And especially if it's a weekend, right? So Thursday through Sunday was just dad controlling everything by being as messed up as possible.
And he was a custodian?
He was a custodian. He was the custodian that was supposed to become the head, like, of the maintenance department, and it never came to him because he never went for it. You know what I mean? It was one of those things that just like sat in the back of his head and kind of informed a lot of his kind of resentment and aggression. I think he took a lot of it out on me and my mom for a lot of years, and then also my brother towards the end of my high school experience and the beginning of Jake's, middle school and stuff. I really wanted desperately for him to get it once I got into the rooms. But thinking back now, and knowing what I know about his journey, knowing that he was someone that, he went to rehab twice at a young man. And
before you were born?
Before I was born, in high school. He was in high school. And his
You went to rehab in high school?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
In Iowa. He went to the place in Minnesota that a lot of folks go to. I forget what it's called, but it's something with an R.
It's okay. They're not a sponsor.
If they want to, though.
I'm sure. They could we'll take the money.
Yeah. But when he would go, he said the worst thing was going to have family week. And so like he and some others were just trying to, figure out how to get high or whatever, but there would be family week. And so then his father and my grandmother, his mom would come, and the old man, as my dad said, would just put him through his paces, like, here's what you did. How dare you? This, that, and the other thing. And it was like just a shame cycle for him that he couldn't get over and couldn't let go of, I think. And so he resented, I think, sobriety for me when I got it, because he never did. But, there was some part of him that could relate to some of the experience that I was having. And so for me, as I was saying, I've always wanted this for my dad. Even when I was young, right? Like I always kind of wanted the dad that was sober, because I knew I could talk to him and he would hear it. You know what I mean? And now as I'm getting older, I'm realizing like, I have some of those same tendencies that he has. You know what I mean? Like the pissed off or funny, thing. And so it's like, I want to bring my experience to him in a way that's like meaningful and helps him and supports him. And he's sharing that about him being in rehab was really, it was meaningful for me, because it put my experience in rehab into context in a way that was like just not something I'd thought about before.
Now, so how did you get from when you started your freedom ride all the way into the rehab? Like, how long were you out there?
Yeah, so you asked about drugs and alcohol and all the good stuff. So I never smoked a cigarette in my life. I got real close when I was fucked up a couple times, but
you got to stay health conscious.
I know. Yeah, I was worried about the look. I didn't want to be a hipster. But so when I was 16, I was already. I wasn't active, but like my first drink was when I was 15, and I grabbed a beer from my dad's 30-pack that he had. And I was like, I didn't know what it was about. I was like, I want to find out more about this. And so I took it downstairs and I chugged it in the bathroom. Warm Budweiser, chugged the whole thing.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I felt really good afterwards. I was like, oh, man, this is what it's all about. But I did not drink again for a little bit. But my first car was a Dodge minivan. I inherited that from my mom. She was a teacher, so it's bright red Dodge minivan. Turned 16, got that thing, and I took the middle seats out. I took the middle seats out, and I put subwoofers in it. I had an audio system in it that I bought. I thought it was the coolest thing because
it's a personal party.
Yeah. I mean, that's a little bit jumping ahead of the story, but it's absolutely correct. So I would get my boys. We'd get a bottle, we'd get a 30-pack of our own, and we'd hop in there and we would go find gravel roads. And we'd try to, coercion was something that kind of came to me in that era. It's like coercing people with rewards. So it was like my vehicle's the party, I've got the booze, and I've got, girls that I'm like, trying to coerce to like, let's party.
You're trying to wrestle together a good time.
I feel like
But I think that's also, it's adolescence.
Definitely did wrestle.
It's adolescence. It's, I think that's, if you didn't know where this story was going to end, you would have thought that, listen, this is a young person growing up in middle America, gets the keys to their car. You know, there could be, I mean, if we want to get super cheesy, we could have this in a movie with, like, you know, the dad being whomever, and then a John Mellencamp song playing, and you're doing donuts in the dirt road with a bottle of whiskey, and, you know, you and your friends, and it sounds like fun. But then eventually...
Right. So eventually it comes to a head, and you realize, like, that same feeling was what I was chasing 3 years ago when I was still just stumbling down the block to get my medicine. You know what I mean? I was still chasing that.
Right.
So, you know, it is funny you mentioned that it you know, was chasing something, and I was wrestling something. I did that into college as well, because I was one of those that got trapped in a good deal, you know, going to college in state, and I thought that was going to be great. But the first thing I ever spent any money on that was like over $500, I got $1,000 in promissory notes for books and whatever, and I took that and I paid for my 21st birthday. I like got my house all tidied up so that I could destroy it, you know, and I like moved stuff around so my friend's band could play. I didn't ask any of my roommates or anything, like, what do you think we should do or whatever. And I just, you know, like that's really where I think the whole chasing the experience or the feeling started to happen. That's where it happened. It wasn't necessarily in high school. It was in college when I connected all the dots, and I had all this stuff, and I had my little bubble that I could control, and I was like, that's what I want.
It's like your little snow globe. You got everything in its right place.
Yeah.
You got your alcohol. You got all of these things that say, this is my time now. Mm-hmm. I'm not in my parents' home. I'm blah, blah, blah. I have arrived. Probably the first arrival. That
was the first of a couple, yeah. And I chased that. I think one of the most difficult parts of, you know, my experience isn't, you know, like, I'm privileged in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? Like, I am who I am, and in that I'm very comfortable. But I didn't always acknowledge the fact that, like, the hardest part I ever had to deal with in my story, you know, and just thinking about it now is admitting that someone I loved didn't love me. You know what I mean? And it wasn't a mom or a dad, and it wasn't that close. It was someone that I truly thought I was in love with. Right. And I didn't admit it until 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, truthfully.
Yeah, I mean, alcohol, I mean, escape is the love. Mm-hmm. Whether you can use whatever you want. But alcohol and drugs, they work until they stop working. And I think there's no shame, and you keep going until, you know, it's all good until it's not all good. Now, did you have a relationship with your little brother? Is he watching all this unfold? What's the story?
Oh, Jake. Yeah, my brother Jake was, he's definitely a huge part of this story. More so now because I've gotten to know him again. Basically, when I dropped off the map, like 2014 to 2019 was just a really dark, you know, New York took that little bubble I found in college and just condensed it even more. And it was farther away, you know. And Jake is someone that now I relate to in a way that I'd never related to another man ever, you know, and that's my brother. You know, he's my best friend. He's someone who I, you know, respect and have a lot of gratitude for every single day. But I didn't then, and I didn't for a lot of years. And so I kind of pushed him off as like most of us do, as like a responsibility that I do not want to take care of. It's like you bought the puppy, you know, and now the puppy is sick, or like the puppy, you got to get different food or whatever. And it's like,
right.
I don't want to deal with that. That's his problem. That's my parents' problem. You know what I mean? And it was just nice to see him once in a while, but it wasn't like, I didn't think about how he felt about me not being there, you know, for him.
Yeah.
And he needed me.
Knowing where you came from, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you're just like, hey, we live, you know, what do they say? Like the military, we don't leave any soldiers behind. Like, and at the time, I think for me, I know, because I've been in a different scenario, but the same feelings where in reality, yes, we have to live with who we were, but I was literally incapable of thinking about somebody else or considering somebody else. I didn't know that all of this was connected to a string. My actions and what I was doing affects everybody around me. My whole, not just myself. When you're trapped in like, I'm living my life, I'm only doing it to myself. Why is everybody so bothered? You know, but it takes time in recovery even to understand that there are other humans on this earth.
Oh my gosh. And they have an opinion and they have love and empathy for you. And that's why they're hurt, you know, when you make mistakes or you harm them or take advantage of them.
Sure.
Yeah. The empathy is probably the hardest part for me to, you know, continually, the empathy evolves the same way that my disease evolves. So as I'm developing, you know, a good bond or a strong relationship with like family or friends or whatever, my disease is also evolving. My, you know, kind of like, you know, the selfishness, the fear, the ego and everything are also evolving in ways that I did not expect to manifest. You know what I mean?
Sure. It's almost like you were possessed.
Totally. 100% I was possessed. I mean, I was a demon in my own right, you know, like there were several times closing the bar. So, you know, like fast forward to like New York from Iowa, it's like,
right. So after college, you moved to New York?
Yeah. So this is where that difficulty kind of lies, is this person that I was in love with. She came to New York and
I thought you were talking about the whiskey, but go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and Powers had a really strong relationship for a number of years, but, no, it was a woman and I really thought this was the one, and I was not going to let her get away. You know, like I could control the situation in a way that would bring her back to me and all my dreams would come true. And it's incredible now to remember those moments where it's like, I really thought messed up on, you know, Percocet and cocaine and alcohol that I was going to be the one for her. You know, like,
oh yeah, that was on her list of Prince Charming. Like, hold up, first things first. You know, well, it started off.
Yeah.
Think about it. Think about the story. It starts off like Prince Charming, you know, with a red van from your mom and a good old time, and then it evolves rather quickly to cocaine, Percocet, in the biggest city. Fully addicted to self. Forget about the medication like that you're doing and all of that stuff that just becomes part of your DNA. Now every day you're waking up and you have to. Yeah. But you're addicted to self. Like, no, this is my person and this is my life. And I'm going to, like you said before, wrestle into control. Yeah. Yeah. So that must have been some sight.
I think probably the moment where I started to know that I have a problem, which, you know, I've heard a lot of people talk about, like, you know, like, when did you know? And it was like where my health and my weight kind of started to change, and it was like not by my choice. You know what I mean? Like, it was not like I started eating better or doing anything different. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where the bottom fell out for me in terms of like, became hopeless in a lot of ways, you know, like
physically you were,
I lost.
What was the story?
So I was like, in high school, I was about 260. And I got down to, you know, when I came here, I was about 250. And when I came into when I got sober, I was about 209. And, you know, not by choice.
And that's not healthy keto weight loss.
No.
That is,
yeah, and it was not my ketosis that was keeping me thin. It was my addiction to alcohol, you know, and it was like basically a straight liquid sugar diet, you know, right. And it didn't matter how much water I put in my body. I was dehydrated constantly, malnourished, et cetera, et cetera. And that's like where I found my, you know, my faith lacking. And the only thing that really gave me hope was, alcohol, you know, and that was it. And it's such a similar feeling to that feeling of like recognizing that like this person's never going to love me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never going to have enough alcohol, you know, I'm never going to get the validation or affirmation I'm getting in my head when I'm wasted, that I can, you know, the rest of my life, it doesn't exist except for in those few moments, you know.
When you got here, what kind of work were you doing?
So I was a bartender in Iowa, and I thought I had arrived as a bartender. in Iowa because I was working at a club that was like famous for people from Chicago coming and like drinking at. And I was like, oh man, look who's that, like whatever person who met Kanye once or knows Chance the Rapper from a party they went to in high school or college. It's like, yeah, whatever. But it doesn't matter because it was like I felt good about my skills and I was like, I can go to New York and do anything. And when I got here and I started bartending, that was a different game. Not because it was like higher volume or really a lot harder. It's just the attitude around bartending in New York is completely different than it is around in Des Moines or in Iowa. In
what way?
In Des Moines and Iowa, being a bartender was more of a rock star thing. In New York, if you are a bartender, you could be terrible at bartending and you could still be a bartender. You know what I mean? It was kind of more about your personality and kind of, maybe you had connections to someone in the neighborhood, you brought in a good crew, or like you could develop a following. And then, it was very entrepreneurial. Now, I also got trained and started to get into like mixology and stuff and working as someone who was into craft cocktails, knowing all this stuff and having all this knowledge about spirits and wine and everything. When I got to a point where I was like, I have too much information, like this is not helping me, you know what I mean? And it's like, it just felt superficial. I still feel that way. Like a lot of bartenders have got a ton of knowledge and are incredibly talented bartenders. But to me, it felt like I was superficial. I was trying to sell you something. You know what I mean? So,
plus you were an alcoholic.
And I was an alcoholic. So really what I was trying to do is make me money. You buy more, make more tip, get more alcohol, drugs, whatever, you know what I mean? And at a certain point, all of this like highfalutin kind of bartending that I was doing, I was, oh my gosh, all the classes, all the work that I put in to know more so that I could get more money, whatever, that stopped. Because I realized what I said earlier, which is bartending in New York doesn't have to be about how good you are. You can just make money bartending, just making drinks, just getting to know people, BSing, having a rapport. Because there's this thing called the third place, and it's, I think Howard O, I forget his name. I'm doing the thing that I'm not supposed to, which is like not knowing things. I have a phone. I could Google it if I wanted to. But they talk about the third place, and it's a place all of us need as adults. It's not home and it's not work, right? And it's the place you go to develop community. And if you don't have it, people get unhinged and feel crazy. And so, it's like the bar was that. And I loved that I could be that and make money doing that. And I got to put my personality on display, and I got to take over control of like relationships in the bar between regulars. And I was like, matchmaker, and I was all these different things.
Like a maestro.
That's what it felt like. But at the end, I went from this high place of like working in Midtown, making a lot of money on the books with like a career opportunity, like places with a pension and 401k. And like you can be a career bartender and be happy in New York.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But you have to do it the right way.
You got to do it the right way.
Right.
Yeah. You got to do it the right way. And I wasn't ready to do that. You know what I mean? I was more interested in like something we were talking about earlier, which is like, I wanted to get as much as quickly as possible and I don't care who I have to kill to get it. You know what I mean? And as that became more my MO, this like hard work, save your money, whatever. I was like, no, it's not working. I started working at worse and worse places where it was paying me in cash, places that were letting me kind of guest bartend whenever I wanted to, and I could make money and get out. That was more appealing because that fed my disease. You know what I mean? I wasn't interested in anything but getting high and drunk. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I've seen and I've heard and I've experienced exactly what you're describing, where a little bit at a time, the disease starts to take over your life. And then you lower the standards of your life to come down and meet your disease, where you can be, like you said, in Midtown Manhattan, and you can be a career guy. And I knew, when I worked in finance, I worked on Wall Street, and there were guys, there were two types of people. There were people who came and we all did the same job. But the difference was what people did with their money. There were people who were smart and maybe they didn't have the DNA affliction that we have, or whatever their thing is. There are people who invested their money. They went home every day. They had a few pops. They did whatever. And there were other people who were animals. And the animal stuff gets always glorified on TV and whatever and everything.
Yeah.
But they end up with zero.
Mm-hmm.
They end up with zero. And I see like the parallel where you're just like, okay, well, here I am in New York City, greatest city on earth, and I'm in the game. And then all of a sudden you're like, no, I want to play for my own team. Mm-hmm. And a little bit at a time, you're giving away, you're not even knowing, but you're giving away your dream, right?
100%. Yeah, and you say it so poetically, like giving away your dream. I did not get anything for my dream. The things that I was giving away were things that were freely given to me, and it was not good stuff. You know what I mean? It was like, or it was good stuff for the most part, but it's like the stuff I was getting was not good.
It wasn't an even trade.
No, I did not get my money's worth for sure.
Yeah.
But at the end there, I was working at a really good place at a mom and pop, you know what I mean? And I did them wrong, in a variety of ways. And I still feel like, even now, that if I had any idea the amount of harm I was doing to someone, that I would have listened to me now. I don't know. I really don't think so. Like, like a time machine, a sci-fi movie, whatever, blip pops up and it's me from the future saying like, you know what I mean? Like just now, stop, stop now. I never had anyone do that. I never had anyone shake me and tell me like, you got to stop. Never had that. And I hear it a lot.
Do you think it would have worked?
I don't think so. No, probably not. But I don't know. You know what I mean? Because I'm someone, God bless it. I've got, 19 months and I am, going strong, but it's like, I haven't relapsed, knock on wood. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure. I'm someone who probably would have taken the suggestion if it was given to me in a way that, I could accept it. But it's like...
There's that control thing again.
Exactly. I, you know what I mean?
I need to accept the way you're telling me how to save my own life.
Yeah.
How does the bottom come for you?
Yeah. The bottom comes for me, gift of desperation. I had nothing left. I had absolutely no gas in the tank. So I was walking to get more of my higher power, which was, I was at this point just drinking like a fifth? No, it was more than a fifth. It was like 1.5 liter vodka every 3 days or so. And so, I was really hurting myself, but it's like I was walking to the liquor store one day because I was out and did not plan accordingly. And this is at that point of alcoholism where you're like throwing up for an hour in the morning, sweating, tremors, everything. But I had realized...
That's full detox.
Yeah, I was starting to detox. And I wasn't in control of my body anymore. And it scared me to the point I was having like heart palpitations and anxiety attack, all that stuff. And the alcohol is one drug that you can't detox safely on your own. Certain folks are, I'm sure there's a way to do it.
Do not try it.
No.
Go to detox.
Go to
Get
detox.
Medically removed. Please.
Yeah. Yes. Because I was, like 2-3 days into, not trying to, but I just didn't have my medicine. And so I was like, I have to go to the liquor store. And walking to the liquor store, my leg starts to shake and I can't stop it. And then my arm starts to shake and I can't stop it. And I'm sweating through my shirt. I just took a shower, I'm just like a total mess and a wreck and I'm cold.
Is this a regular liquor store where people know you?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the one where it's like on 3rd Avenue and 24th Street 3rd Avenue and 24th Street. And like the guy, this is a guy that I saw, like he keeps his bed in the liquor store. I don't know what's going on, but it's like, I know this guy.
He's my kind of guy.
He's comfortable with me. And so I'm walking there and I can see it happening and I know it's going to happen. It's going to be okay. But it's like my body's breaking at the point where I don't have, and I'm so hurt and tired and lonely and broken and just sad. You know what I mean? My life is in a point perfect, just like, I don't know how to describe it. This is like what's in the big book about like the white light moment kind of shit, because it's like, I didn't know I wasn't going to make it. I thought I was going to make it to the liquor store and get the stuff and be fine. And what happened was I called 911 because my health, like I was at a point where it's like 6'3", football player in high school. You know, I'm supposed to be in the prime of my life and I can't walk down the street. Like my heart's palpitating. I'm blurred vision. And I call these wonderful guys and they send the ambulance and they come and find me somehow. And I get in it. And the next phone call I make is to my mom because I have not talked to my mother in over 2 years. And I didn't know what was going to happen to me. So I call my mom and I just say, Mom, will you stay on the phone with me?
Did you guys have like a falling out, or you woke up 2 years later like, wow, I'm by myself, isolated? How did that happen?
So basically that's pretty accurate. I used to talk to my mom when I had to, and I would talk to my mom about things that I had to talk to her about, like, oh, Mom, I'm broke, I need money. Hey, Mom, I'm still broke, I still need money. Hey, Mom, all this money I'm making in Midtown and bartending and, slinging drinks, making almost $100K, I can't pay my, $1,000 rent. It's like that was my relationship with my mom for about 4 years. And I was ashamed of that. I was tired of that. So I wasn't really talking to her, and I was just scraping by, and I was stealing from my partner, and I was like doing all kinds of things to avoid talking to my mom because of the extreme shame and guilt that it brought up.
Is your dad still around?
Dad is still around. They're still together. And yeah, he was someone that would have probably just given me the money as long as I didn't tell my mom, you know what I mean? But he also is a broke ass, person who would also spend his money. So my mom took over the finances, and any money he got went through her first.
Smart.
Yeah. I really respected that. That took like a while for it to happen, but it was worth it when it happened.
So you're in the ambulance, you call your mama?
Yeah, I call my mama.
Like a little boy.
Yeah.
What happened next?
My mom gets on the phone, kind of not sure why I'm calling, and this is June, so she's a teacher and she's finished school, so she's kind of confused, and she just listens and she says, "It's going to be okay, honey, it's going to be okay." And,
That's God right there, ladies and gentlemen.
It was definitely God. It was definitely God.
See, what else is there to say?
Yeah.
That's the all-knowing. It's going to be okay. What happens next?
So I make it to, just got like chills a little bit. Because, I think to a certain extent, I have always looked to my mom for what to do, even though my dad, is the man in the family or whatever. But, like my mom. The male. Yeah, right. Yeah, he's the Y chromosome of the family. But my mom taught my brother how to throw a football because my dad didn't have the patience, like stuff like that, But, yeah, so after she started talking to me and did calm me down a little bit, and the guys were pumping oxygen to me to get me to calm down, I started feeling a little better. I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy had a huge mustache. He was like, now that I know a little bit about EMTs, I realize like they're rock stars. And
it's a very thankless job.
That's
move the mic a little closer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very thankless job, and especially with my, tired ass in there, once we get to the hospital, I am cramping up and stuff because I'm so dehydrated. So like I've been sweating now, and I've been like shaking. When they put the thing on my arm to take my vitals and stuff, like do my whatever.
Sure.
My hand just like all of my muscles in my arm just go like tense and become rock hard, and like I cannot undo my hand, and I start freaking out about that. And the woman is trying to get my information, like who are you, and she's just sitting there like kind of like secretary. She's not a nurse, she's not a tech, she's nobody, and I'm just looking at her like, I need my hand to unclench, I just said that like 3 or 4 times when she was asking me like, where do you live?
Right.
I'm like, lady, do you see this? This is insane.
She probably sees it all day.
All day long. She
All
was
day.
like,
She
not
knows
blinking.
you're going to be okay also. She knows also.
Yeah. See that right there, what you just said is that higher power. That was like all around me the whole time, and I didn't know it. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not possible.
yeah. It's impossible for me to see it. That's absolutely true. But I was like bathed in this warmth of, you know, like a reassuring presence, and then just like thinking back to it the whole time. I wasn't freaked out about being there or having needles stuck in me or anything. I was more freaked out about, you know, all the kind of like I'm okay, you know, like that was what was maybe going.
Mom was right.
Yeah,
Mom was right.
Mom was right. And my wife came. She was my, you know, just girlfriend at the point that this was all happening. I cannot believe she stayed with me. But you know, when she came, she saw me. I went from there, like the crash cart or whatever, to a room in a detox that was in the NYU Langone in Gowanus, and
Oh, that's the old Lutheran.
Yes, yeah. And so I'm laid up in there next to someone who I was like going to be there for 3 days. And this person had like their family around them and were elderly. And so I was like not sure what was going on, but it didn't seem good for them, you know?
Right.
But Lucy, my wife, showed up and brought her sister who works in this field of recovery and works at a rehab. And she told me, like, you know, you're going to go through withdrawals like pretty bad or whatever. And they put me on whatever they put me on to like keep me from freaking out. I was like on, I guess, Valium and other stuff.
It's 100% necessary. You could lose your life.
Yeah. I mean, I was ready to risk it. You know what I mean? At some point I was like ready to run, but I was also, like I said, bathed in this kind of warmth of like this relief, and it didn't really hit until her and her sister showed up and brought me candy. And I was like, why are you bringing me candy? I don't want candy. And it's because of the sugar. You've been pumping yourself full of sugar, almost forcing diabetes on yourself for, you know, now, you know, 7-8 years. But anyways, so that was the moment where I realized I was going to be okay. This is going to be fine. Like I'm at a doctor, you know, and the itchy kind of almost, it's like a relentless boredom, kind of fear of boredom that started when I started to sober up there. You know, the kind of hunger came back, which was good. But it was like this fear of like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my time? What am I going to do? I'm not getting a drink, you know? And so retooling and rewiring my brain started to come slowly, but I eventually got more comfortable and I was like, okay, it's going to be all right. And then this person who's in the room with me, who's got a curtain between us, they die. They die in the middle of the night, like wee you, like code blue,
like the code.
Like, yeah, people rushing in with crash cart and everything, like, and their families all crying and people are freaking out. And then once all that stops, I'm still in the room separated by a sheet or whatever. And it's like all the family leaves. And now it's just like 2 nurses cleaning up this dead body really quietly, wrapping them up, like getting them cleaned up. And then
this is your life.
I was like, you know, like, I don't know what to do. And so I went back to sleep, woke up, and my nurse gave me chicken nuggets, you know? So, I mean, it's like there was just a lot of, you know, moments in that small 3-day window of detox where I, you know, realized now, just talking to you, that I was getting the juice I needed to take my next step, which was for me rehab. You know, I did 30 days at Phoenix House, and I feel like if you don't take the time to go through these moments, whether it's through a program like this or, you know, just even being, you know, reflective in your meditation or your practice, you know, it's like you're going to forget how bad it was. And so anyways, but my next step was rehab, and rehab is one of those places where they brought AA to me. And that was really cool because I would never have sought it out. I had tried to seek it out one time before, but it was like I went in drunk and I had a drink with me. And, after the meeting, a lot of people obviously were reading me perfectly, right? But I was also someone who was always like willing to do service, even in my alcoholic state. It's like I stayed, I cleaned up, I put chairs away, and I'm like wasted, and these people are all talking to me about how great my life's going to be. And I was like, I just need to go to the liquor store after this, and actually this is the same time. So this is about 2 or 3 months before my gift of desperation moment. And it was my mom on Messenger talking to my girlfriend about having an intervention, coming out from Iowa to New York to get me. And just like, she didn't know what she was going to do, but she was not going to be paying my fucking rent anymore. And she was like going to put me in a headlock and probably take me back to Iowa. And I don't know if that would have worked. You know what I mean? It happened just the way it's supposed to happen.
So what happened when you got out of rehab? What was going on in your life?
Nothing. Honestly, nothing. No one from my previous experience reached out or had questions or wanted to get to know anything about me. So I continued to follow the suggestions, you know what I mean? It's kind of hard to take, I don't know, advice or suggestions or anything like when I was in there, because it was other men getting sober and I like didn't trust them, or I thought they were trying to get something from me or whatever. But the person that I did respect and I listened to was this guy named Tommy, and he looked like Alice Cooper, kind of like he was like the old head in the rehab who probably been there 7 or 8 times or whatever, but like this time he's really got it, and I'm like pretty sure he did. But he is the one who was like, you've got to like, he's the first time I heard the pull the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth. And he said that, and I was like, oh, that's profound. I wrote it in a journal, right? And I've still got it because I thought that was like awesome.
Like, it works if you work it. You're like, what? It's funny. When it's legit true, like every word in that phrase is true.
It's one day at a time. I never thought that would mean anything. You know what I mean? One day at a time sounded like such BS to me. And now it's absolutely how I live my life. But he suggested to go to a meeting right away. So the moment I got out, I just got on Google and I was like, hey, meeting near me. And it gave me Intergroup, and I found Greenwood. And I went there the day I got out, and it was like 80 something degrees out, and it was a really hot New York day. Like, New York is one of those places you don't want to be hot in because it's so oppressive, especially if you're like in an underpass where there's no wind and it's just the sun is on you. I mean, it just can be the worst. But I walked through the bright sunshiny door of Greenwood, and I sat down at one of the places where the tables had the disgusting like plastic on the tables, and my hands and arms are sticking to it, and I'm like reading this 12 steps. I think it was a 3rd step, and I'm sitting right across from Big Rich and next to Juan Carlos, who like are kind of an odd couple, but they also are great messengers for the program, like they're...
This is at the 3 o'clock, no?
Yeah, this is 3 o'clock. This is my first meeting. It's step meeting, 3 o'clock. So shout out for the 3 o'clock step meeting, Jay.
Yeah, definite.
But I'm in there and I'm listening to them and we're reading, and they gave me their phone numbers, but now that I know them a little bit, it's like they are not always the guys that are like super, like I don't think of Big Rich as a guy who gives his phone number out, you know what I mean? Like,
definitely
I love him.
Not.
Yeah. So he gave me his phone number, which is awesome.
Yeah, he sits there, he does his freaking crossword
Sudokus
puzzles and shit and the
yeah.
Sudokus. No, but he's got a lot of knowledge.
He's got a lot of knowledge, and
knowledge comes in recovery. Knowledge comes from experience. It's not like theory, and that's I think the thing that helps people stick is that when somebody says, "Listen, I was at the end of my rope, and my mom was done paying my rent too." Like that's not a tagline. That's like somebody's life. And when your life is like that, you say, okay, then maybe I can get this guy's phone number.
Exactly. I mean, and I'll always respect and love that guy for what he did for me on that day, because that was the reason I came back, you know, like that kind of subtle, simple empathy is something I try to practice in my life, you know, for the people that need it and don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's just here, you know, that's who I am. But yeah, so I came back, I kept coming back and filled my life with AA. I mean, you know, there was so many meetings that first like 6 months. It was like, if I wasn't at a meeting, I felt weird, you know, and now thinking about it, it's strange that, you know, now I'm doing service, and I did service throughout the pandemic and stuff, you know, and it was like a huge part of my life. And now that I'm, you know, like now I am busy. So thinking about it now, you know, I'm in a place where it's like I've got my days scheduled out for months, you know, like I know what I'm doing until June, you know.
Right.
It feels crazy because at that point I didn't know what I was doing ever, you know, if I wasn't going to a meeting. And so, you know, that is where I found that kind of warmth again. So throughout like my story, I'm realizing there's like moments that just kind of guided me. It was like, it wasn't, how do you describe it? I guess it is a warmth. It's a feeling. It's like you're in the right place kind of is the phrase that you would use to describe it. It's like, okay, these are my people, you know, like this is where I'm supposed to be.
This is my home. When I'm not here, I feel off. So this is my home, where you would think it's not that, like in the sense of when you're saying like, you know, no, you feel whole in that room. Yeah. Outside of the room, when I'm having a great day, just me, when I'm having a great day, I'm 95, 98%. But I am 100% every time I'm looking at those whales on the wall. Oh, or if I'm somewhere else where I'm with my people, I am 100%. I feel like, like that last little breath that I'm holding, even if it's very slight, I get that exhale. And there's nothing on this earth better than like an AA hug.
Oh, man.
Or an NA hug or whatever. A hug from somebody that you know understands. Yeah. That you know has been in the, you know, has been dancing with the devil.
Oh, man.
Right?
Yeah. I've got to say, I've never had a better experience than not knowing I need a meeting. And then you go to a meeting and you have exactly what you're talking about, where it's like, I am good. I've had a great day. I'll go to this meeting. And it's like just the cherry on top, or it's just I don't know. It's
sometimes perfect. It'll take that from like, oh, I'm having a great day. You go to the meeting, like, oh no, wait a minute, I have a great life.
Yeah.
I have like a great life. It's just, it's that powerful. So you stayed and then you changed your whole life.
Yeah.
No more bar, no more sweaty down the street.
No, man.
How did you say sayonara to that guy? That was an identity.
That was, yeah. I definitely believed myself to be, you know, like I like to think of it as CCTV that I can watch all the time. I'm like watching my life and how cool I thought I was, right? Like I was externalizing all this different crap about myself, and I thought that it was cool to be a scumbag, you know, bartender in Bushwick. You know, like I lived on McKibben, and I lived in the lofts, and I had like a band for roommates and stuff. And then I'd go to the bar and I'd get messed up, and I'd, you know, live that life. And yeah, I had to say goodbye to all that.
Are you grateful for having experienced that? So now that you know maybe what matters a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the gratitude definitely comes from being able to look at that and then juxtapose it with the life I'm living now. Yeah. That definitely is where my gratitude comes in, and not being able to shut the door on it is a good thing, because I did have good times. I have good memories. I have experiences that I would never exchange.
This wouldn't happen without that.
Exactly. Yeah. I have an ABC kind of like life, you know, like A led to B led to C, and now I'm here. I'm a teacher. I have a wife, you know, I have a kid on the way. I have.
Yeah, dude, you're like a citizen.
I pay taxes.
Yeah.
I was paying cash for 4 years. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have a paper trail,
Right.
and stuff. And yeah, so I mean, yeah, I have a bank account again. I have like all these things, and
How's the relationship with your mom now and your brother?
my brother and my mom and I, we frequently, when I'm home, I'll go back because I can afford to go home now.
Right. You don't have to ask her for a ticket.
Yeah, exactly. But when we get home, we sit around and we kind of we talk about the future, and we talk about what's possible for us and our family, because my mom is going to retire this year, and I want her to come and visit, and see her grandkid and like get to know the rest of the world, because she's always put everything on her shoulders, including all of my crap, my dad's crap, everyone's always, she's the person to take it and carry it over the finish line. You know what I mean? Like,
She deserves a break.
She deserves a break. The same relief that I've had in my life through my sobriety and all the support that she has given me, I want to give to her, know?
What about your dad?
He probably deserves the same, to be perfectly honest, because in our program, if I'm looking at it sober, he wasn't trying to do those things to me, He was just in his own, he was an alcoholic. He was just like me, and he was living a life that he thought was the best way that he could get through life. And
he was just enduring.
Yeah, it wasn't living. You're right. It wasn't living. It was just enduring. And
you know what that's like.
Yeah, it's a suffering, terrible place to be. And I do sympathize and relate to him, which is why our relationship has gotten better too, because he starts opening up to me about, oh yeah, when I was 19 or 18, I went to rehab twice. I'm like, oh really? I didn't know about that. I've been sober for 3 years. I've been your son for all 35 of mine, and you've never said anything about any of that. So I think in his age, he's also retiring. There's going to be a time where it comes for him that he's got to share himself, with himself. He's got to be honest with himself. He's got to bring it all full circle for his own, for himself. And I don't think I can make him do that. So we'll see where it goes. But,
Have you forgiven him?
More or less, I think this is one of those tricky spots where I feel like there is a part of me that will always, I'm going to have to wake up and write that 10-step probably. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to have to always have a little bit of a, back and forth with me and my higher power about this. But it's like, he's my dad, like he's the guy that loved me when nobody else did, like he's the guy that always kind of stuck up for me in his own terrible way, So forgiving him means accepting that good part of him and allowing myself to, move past some of the other things that he did in the past,
Right. Like we were talking about on the way here, like how do we treat people outside of the rooms with the same love and tolerance and empathy and forgiveness that we do like people in the rooms. Where for me, with my dad, it's like, I got to a place where I couldn't be mad at him for not giving me something that he didn't have. Yeah, he doesn't, he don't have it.
Yep.
I look at him now, and we have a great relationship now, and he's an older guy, and he's crazy, and he's inappropriate. But, we were talking about it before the show. Like they're from that generation where they don't open up. They don't share. They're not like, listen, there's a piece of red meat and a beer and a ball game. Mm-hmm. That's like the pinnacle.
Yeah. Best day of their life.
Right. And, they don't, maybe that's enough for them. I don't know. But we know that there's more.
Oh yeah. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share what I can as an example, and I've learned in these rooms and in this program and from you, like there is, I gotta take care of myself first. I gotta take care of myself first to make sure I'm okay. Because if I start to get inside. I can't get inside my dad's head. I don't know what he's thinking.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, I hope, for him, but I don't try to control it anymore.
Yeah. They'll never, it's just like the 3 magic words, when they're ready.
Yeah. When they're ready.
When they're ready. Anyway, look, Noah, it was great having you. I really appreciate it. This will probably drop in a couple of weeks. I'm so excited. You're an excellent addition to our Greenwood family.
Yep.
You're part of that new breed that, there are people who, you came like right before the pandemic, and there are people who are coming back after the pandemic that are just like, what room is this? Who are these people? And all this other thing. And, you went from being peripherally, me watching, you went from being like, oh, this is one of these new guys that's coming around that we love at the men's meeting to whatever. Then all of a sudden, pandemic's over, and you're one of the guys that other people are looking up to and admiring. And
I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So anyway.
Very grateful for the opportunity to be here today. It means a lot. Thank you.
All right, guys. Love you. Have a great night. Peace. We want to thank you all for joining us today. And please don't forget to like and subscribe on all podcast platforms, and find us on Facebook where you can become part of our family. We'll see you around.